Hey listeners, did you know that YogiTriathlete offers endurance coaching for body and mind? We offer personalized training plans for endurance sports, wellness and mindset, nutrition and recovery guidance, and race preparation and strategy, all within the supportive community of Team YogiTriathlete. So if you're ready to conquer your fitness goals and push your limits, our endurance coaches are ready to guide you on the journey to peak performance. Go to YogiTriathlete.com today to set up your free 30-minute discovery call and embrace a future of strength, stamina, and achievement. Your goals, our experience, the perfect match for unstoppable success.
I go through places, I'm hopeless at making decisions because I worry about, is it the right, is it the wrong? And then you can kind of just have to step back and go, you just need to make a decision. And then go forward with that and fully commit to it. And then further down the line, if it doesn't work out or if it's not what you thought, reassess, readjust, turn around, go again. But while you're being indecisive and dithering, you're not getting anywhere and you're not getting anything done. So again, it's one of those that, you don't want to look back in 10, 20 years time and think, what if? Because you never tried. You'll always regret the things that you never did, sort of thing. You'll never regret the things that you did, even if it wasn't the best. You'll always learn and something, and you always regret it if you didn't do it.
Welcome to the Yogi Triathlete podcast. We are your hosts, Jess and BJ, and we're thrilled to share the mic today with professional triathlete Laura Siddall. One of the great things about being in the endurance sports world for as long as we have, going on 2 decades now, has been watching the professional careers of so many triathletes along the way. Some we've had on the podcast who are just starting their careers, while other veterans of the sport have turned in their pro cards for a start at something new. And then there are the others, like our guest today, who continues to up-level their performances into their 40s. So much has shifted since Laura raced her first Ironman as an age grouper in 2009 in the sport and in her life. But what has stayed the same is her ability to grasp the W on race day. In her amateur years, Laura gained world championship status at multiple distances from sprint to half Ironman. Within her professional career, she has stood on countless podiums, and the most recent being at the grueling Patagonman Xtreme Triathlon, where she not only took the women's win, but was second overall, inclusive of the men's field. So that said, get ready to dive in with us as we welcome Laura Siddall to the show and smack down her amazing win in Chile. Laura, thank you so much for being here and being on the show with us today.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for that amazing introduction. You definitely did your research, and I'm slightly nervous now, but looking forward to chatting. So thanks again for having me on the show.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations. Amazing race. And one of our buddies and friends that we've had on here multiple times, Troy Rodrigo, Troy RGC, he might be even in your training pack. Such a good dude. And he's been down there quite a few times. So congratulations.
Thank you.
But you did lead to that you're traveling. And I know that you're kind of like a nomad, like you're kind of in different places, New Zealand, Girona, San Francisco, Boulder. Where are you now? And I guess, where are you going?
I have been a bit of a nomad. Firstly, Troy, he's a training partner. Troy, who I always get confused trying to find him in a race because he's got about 5 million names and I only know him as Troy. And I'm like, who is this? Oh, that's Troy. No, I'm in Boulder at the moment. I've kind of been based here kind of more permanently since January. But yes, I am procrastinating my packing at the moment. I'm just going home back to the UK for Christmas to see my parents and my sisters and see family for just a few days over the holiday period. And then I'll be back out to Boulder. But yeah, I have lived in a fair few places over the past few years. I'm from the UK originally. I moved to Australia with my corporate job at the time, and that's where I started triathlon. I was there for about 7 years. Was in San Francisco, I guess, based for a couple of years, and then ended up splitting my time summer to summer, Christchurch, New Zealand, and Girona, Spain. And then that was pre-pandemic. Just before the pandemic hit, I was actually based in New Zealand and left New Zealand for what I thought was just a 5-week training camp And then the pandemic hit and I haven't been able to get back there. And that was 2020. And what are we, about 4 years later? So I was kind of then more based out of Girona, Spain for the last few years, but yeah, made the move to be based a little bit more in Boulder, more permanently, try and I guess settle. I don't know if that's the right word, or at least have one base. But my coach, Julie Dibbons, is based in Boulder, and she's got a squad and a great team here. I know you've spoken to Lawrence as well, who I work with here in Boulder. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment.
And you took Lawrence from us. He was here in California.
He was in California.
Now he's with you guys.
That's right. I'm really intrigued to see how he's going to survive this first winter. Their house they've got is beautiful. It's up in the mountains, but I know he loves his sun and his ocean and the water, and he sort of swapped that for the mountains, which is still very relaxing and peaceful. But we'll see how he copes with the snow.
Actually, now that we brought up Lawrence's name, and I do want to get into your win down in Chile, but one thing that we used to be able to just hop in the car and shoot up to Lawrence's and get our work and have, an amazing conversation, which can range a myriad of subjects. You have no idea what he's going to be passionate on the day. And it's just such a blast to talk with him. But the one thing that we really learned is like the gentleness and the subtlety in his technique and what he teaches you. And as, somebody who obviously has a competitive spirit, and I've done my research, I've listened to some podcasts, and I know that, sitting around and being lazy is not really your MO. And not that Lawrence is teaching us to be lazy, but he is teaching us to be very gentle. And so what has that learning curve been like for you working with Lawrence?
Yeah, he's, like you said, it's every time you go up there, even if he's doing sort of body work and stuff like that, it's always something new and a different conversation, and always picking up. I started working with Lawrence actually during the pandemic. So I was in the UK and I just had some shoulder surgery and I was kind of struggling a little bit. So my coach, again, Julie, put me in contact and we went through some breathing work. And so it kind of started from that aspect. More of late, I've had like a hip, a hamstring, I don't know what you call it, niggle that I've been managing for a couple of years now, and just never been able to get on top of it. It's never stopped me doing anything as such. I've always been able to train and race through, but it's just been something I've managed. And actually it's been, would try and see Lawrence every now and again if he came up here from California, but it was definitely made a difference when he moved up here and I could see him more regularly. And just, yeah, so some of the physical body work he's done was amazing. I just remember one session walking out of there and running the next day, and my hip and hamstring felt like just turned a massive corner, and I'd been like struggling with it for 18 months and it had sort of never felt better. But yeah, just then the learnings around my running, that trying to be at peace, at presence, feel the ground, open your hips up, open your chest up. I'm keen to do a little bit more work with him going forward, just on, I don't sleep very well. And I'm really rubbish at holding my breath when I'm swimming, like underwater kind of hypoxic stuff. So reading, talking to him and then reading the recent article he put out as well. So interested to explore those kind of areas and just see if I can, utilize that calming, slow down, take a moment, that kind of presence and energy that he has, and hopefully, take that utilize that as a performance benefit for me, and just personally, as an athlete, but just personally, going forward into 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, taking it way down. I know, I feel like you go in and see him and it's like he rubs your neck over here for like 5 minutes, and then he rubs this side of the neck, and then you're like, okay, off the table.
Then your hamstring is better.
Yeah, and your hamstring is better.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
He did something, we're kind of going semi-tangentially here. Yeah. So in May, I was hit by a car and suffered a brain bleed and had a concussion, and I got back to Boulder and went to see Lawrence, and he did something like right in the roof up in my mouth and then up my nose, which was very bizarre. And if it was anyone else, you'd be like, what the F are you doing kind of thing. But because it's Lawrence, you kind of trust him. And came out from that. And like one of the first things he says, well, your eyes are a lot more level now than when you first came in. And of course, I didn't notice any of that going in, but obviously I was all a bit skewed from my brain being chucked around in my head. And he was definitely influential and a big part of me coming back after that in May.
Yeah, he's just somebody that is just continues to fully step into like the gifts he came to this earth to share. And we have all been the recipients of that, and just so grateful for him, and grateful for, even this medium that we're sharing right now with you being in Boulder and us being in California, that we can connect, which is just incredible. So yeah, you've had a hell of a year. In May, you that accident that you were talking about happened at Ironman Brazil. And now here you are, sitting on the top of this race, this extreme triathlon, Patagonman. And it's just, you never know how life can shift in an instant. And I'm sure you had moments, I'm going to assume you had moments over this year where you're like, am I going to come back? Am I ever going to be able to race again? Am I going to be able to do anything again? And then you just never know what's around the corner, and you have this incredible victory down in Chile. So yeah, how did that feel, seeing where you've come since May?
Yeah, I think it's been hectic the last few months. So I'm hoping that when I get on that flight on Thursday, I can just take some time to reflect back and do that appreciation of what this year has been about and how far I've come. There were definitely times in those summer months in June, July that, I didn't know, or we didn't know what I would get back to, if I would get back to the same level as I'd been before, what level that, or get back on a start line at all. So that was pretty hard. I'd say kind of being given the opportunity to race in Kona, I was fortunate to be given a wild card. That was kind of a big turning point and a hugely kind of emotional feeling to get to that finish, not just the start line, but to that finish line, and kind of have the race that I did there. And felt after that was, as I said, sort of a closing of a chapter to some extent, or turning a corner in my recovery from the accident. I'm still managing things. I think I've had a residual fatigue going on and then going into Patagonman, that probably, and other kind of additional stresses that just affect me differently now, with energy levels and fatigue and mood swings. But yeah, it was an opportunity to go to somewhere completely different, go to a beautiful place and experience almost like grassroots triathlon again. It's not a big, they've got a great brand, they've got a great team, but it's obviously not a big juggernaut of a brand, of a race. They just run that one race. It is kind of, they advertise it as the triathlon at the end of the world, and it does certainly feel like that at times. I did definitely, when I got down there, think, what the hell have I signed up for? Kind of, I don't think I kind of knew, I'd been swimming in cold water. I'd known the weather forecast was looking pretty sketchy. But I think I'd also been in some level of kind of denial or head in the sand just to get through with it. So when we kind of arrived down there and it was 50k an hour wind gusts and snow and rain and freezing cold, and I was seeing the course and I was just like, oh my gosh, what have I done? This is literally just survival. Like, you're kind of trying to think of it as a race, but you also, that kind of gets thrown out the window because you're like, I don't actually know if I can finish this. I just have to get through the day. And so then it's really hard to think about a racing component to that as well. But it was a really good opportunity off the back of the year to kind of, I've always tried to follow races that are in cool places and have like different locations. And aren't your standard racing. So this definitely fitted that bill, and it was an opportunity off the back of the year to kind of try and feel pretty grateful for being back on a start line and being able to experience, swim, bike, run in just somewhere different, but a stunning location, and interact with the locals and the other mad people that do this sport and decided to do that race, and share some stories. The other thing I really liked about it was the team aspect of like how you have to have a support crew with you, or you have to have one official support person. And, there's always a team that goes behind us, my coach, my strength coach, someone like Lawrence or my nutritionalist. And there's always a team that helps you get to that start line. But in most races, it's then kind of you on your own doing the execution of everything. But what I loved, I come from a team sport background anyway, but what I loved was the fact of having a support crew down there. So actually sharing the adventure with friends on leading up to the race, on race day, and then, the days afterwards as well.
Who was your team? Who was this wonderful support crew that you had?
Yeah, so I actually had a couple of friends from Girona. So Sonia and Walter. Sonia's a Kiwi and Walter's Belgium, husband and wife, but they live in Girona now. So met them a few years ago, actually on a training camp. Sonia and I had the same coach a few years back, so met that way. And then they're pretty nomadic like me. So, we'd kind of move around the world in different places and meet up in Girona every now and again. And they actually now live there. And I was actually back in Girona after Kona for the Segrail event and just chatting about Patagonman. And I said, I haven't finalized my crew yet. And Sonia just said, hold the phone and, I'll get back to you tomorrow. And I was kind of like, what's she mean? And she sent me a text the next day saying, if you still need a crew, Walter and I are in. They spent 6 months traveling in Patagonia, so they absolutely love it. That was, several years ago now. So they were keen to come out. And Sonia was my official crew, official support, but Walter was amazing as well, doing a lot of the driving on race day and in the days leading up. So and they were couldn't have asked for better support crew out there.
Well, take us through the day. Like, tell us, like, because we've heard that there was cold water. Obviously, there was weather moving in, and it's something that you haven't done before. And I'm assuming it's your first time in Chile. Like, how did this all play out? Yeah.
Yeah, I raced in Puerto Varas, which is in the northern part of Chile. A challenge race at the beginning of the year. I've had a bit of a South American theme to my racing this year. And I feel I've ticked the box with a good experience or not so good experience at Ironman Brazil, and then an amazing experience in Patagonman. But yeah, so we got there like a week before and stayed in a place which is about halfway on the bike course, which was better to get out and explore the bike and things like that. And just a little bit, it's a very remote area. So the towns are pretty small. And so actually where the start of the race is, there's nothing there but the port. So we stayed a bit more centrally. But yeah, like just riding, we didn't really see the tops of the mountains. Didn't really, I'd heard it was so beautiful, but I was really struggling to go. It was stunning, but it was just different because it was grey, it was misty, you got a bit of a glimpse of the mountains. And then a thing with Chile as well, and Patagonia, the weather changes like within the hour. You kind of get 4 seasons in a day, in an hour. So I rode a little bit of the bike course in the week leading up and scared myself to death because it was kind of howling wind. It was like snow over the top of the pass. Like we went past this waterfall and the water wasn't even falling. It was just coming over the top and then getting like blown across the side. And I was like, I am never going to be able to get through this race kind of thing. Or I am, but it's just going to take me all day. And so then we moved out to the race location, and yeah, still the forecast on race day was really cold, snow, rain. And the feedback we were getting from the race team, the race director, was just like, the water is really, really cold. But he wouldn't give us a temperature. He just kept saying it's really fucking cold. So in the end, they kind of indicated that they were probably going to shorten the swim or do a different swim option. But they said they would confirm it on race day when we're on the boat. I mean, I say confident, that's a little bit wrong. I had really good swim equipment. So I work with DeBoer, and they have a great thermal wetsuit. So it has a hood, and then the wetsuit over the top, and then gloves and boots. So literally I only, the bit around my nose and mouth is sort of exposed. So I felt pretty confident in the equipment, but still swimming in what turned out to be 8 degrees C. So I think that's like 46 Fahrenheit or something. I was pretty happy in the end on race day. They said it was about a 2K swim, it was about half distance. And I was definitely happy about that. I'm quite happy not being in the water for an hour or so doing a full distance. But I mean, race day, we were super lucky. We got down to transition, and for starters, it was dry. So it was cold, but it was dry. And that was a good thing, because setting up everything in the wet would have just been, just a miserable start to the day. And then you get on the boat at about 4 a.m. and it's still sort of pitch black. And I had the boots on already, but I also had hotel slippers on, which was actually a real win, because obviously the floor of the boat's still pretty cold. And it was definitely a good thing to keep me a little bit warmer. I found it's like a car ferry, but there was like a lounge area upstairs with like comfy seats, and it was nice and warm. And I found this area and I was like, this is brilliant. I'm just going to sit up here. There's only a couple of other people up here. Everyone else is sort of down on the exposed cold car deck. And then the race director came up about 5 minutes later and was like, nope, you're not allowed to sit in this nice, comfy lounge. You've got to kind of appreciate or experience the true extreme by going down on deck. So ended up sort of finding a little corner by the engine room. So there's a little bit of warmth there. But yeah, you set off in the dark, and you're really kind of, at that point, we didn't know how long the swim was going to be. We didn't know what the weather was going to turn out for the day. You're just sort of on this boat. You're not really sure of time. Like, I didn't have a watch on at that point. So you're just sort of trying to stay warm. And ended up, just before we sort of started, they said, yeah, it's about a half distance because the water is so cold. And the other thing they say is, once they're ready to let you jump off the boat, ready to start, they're kind of like, don't come to the front unless you are ready to jump, because if you don't jump, you're going to get pushed kind of thing. Because once the first people start entering the water, we have to get everyone in to then start the race. So I was chatting to an American girl, an age grouper, and she was so excited for the race, and she was so excited about this experience that I think it actually helped calm me down a little bit, rather than the other way of sort of the professional trying to calm down the others. So yeah, got in the water, and actually I think I'd built it up to be so cold that it actually wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I mean, it was cold, but I was like, okay. And I think as well, like the fact that I knew it was half the distance was kind of a little bit comforting. But the thing that did it for me was, I got in the water, I swam out to where they had some kayaks lined up, which was the start line. And I just then turned around to look back at the boat. So looked back at the boat and saw all the other athletes jumping on. And at this point, because of the shorter distance, they'd sort of delayed the start. So it was starting to get a bit light. And I just saw this incredible clear sky, like just starting to get light, stars, and then this amazing backdrop of snow-capped mountains just like popping out behind this boat lit up with this mouth open of this boat and all these athletes jumping off. And I was just like, that's it. That's kind of all I'm here for. I'm kind of done. I'm happy. That's ticking the box. It was just an incredible memory, or, incredible vision. And so after that, like the swim, I mean, I had a pretty solid swim. It was nothing amazing. I don't know whether had relaxed too much from seeing this amazing view, or just when it's that cold, you can't swim overly too fast with the wetsuit and stuff. But the main thing, I came out, I don't know, about 6th position overall, which is quite a rarity for me. So I think I was sort of laughing to myself that I was quite far up the field. Got into transition. Sonia was great. She'd laid out all my kit. We'd decided, because it was so cold, the weather. So it was still, whilst it was dry at this point, it was still between like 1 and 5 degrees C temperature. Oof. And we decided that one of the main things about getting through the race was to be keeping the body temperature warm. So I just got a swimsuit on underneath my wetsuit. So did a full strip into cycling kit and leggings and Gore-Tex jacket and space blanket and boots over shoes with a heat packs in them and gloves with heat packs in them. And my first bottle on the bike was hot water. So did that. And and we were just so incredibly lucky. After the forecast, we just had what turned out to be clear blue skies all day. And it was still cold. Like, I didn't take off any of those layers over the full bike course, which involves a fair bit of climbing. And a lot of people made the mistake of, as they started to climb, they kind of started stripping layers. But then we had like a really fast 20-kilometer descent to T2, and everyone then everyone who'd taken layers off then froze. So I kind of knew about that, so I just kept the layers on and stayed warm. I had a space blanket when I discarded that when I did start climbing, but that was the only thing I took off. The bike course, I was kind of on my own for the first part of it. And then a couple of guys joined me just before halfway, and we kind of cat and moused a little bit. And then one of them dropped off, and there was myself and another guy. But he kept stopping with his support crew and taking layers off, or he'd got a flat tire, so pumping tires. So I'd then sort of carry on my own, and then he'd catch back up. But it's an A to B bike course. And you've obviously, your support is sort of leapfrogging you. And at the start, you can see where everyone else is because their support crews like leapfrog around you, and you can kind of have an idea of numbers. And then it got quieter in the middle as we stretched out. But the road surface is pretty rough. It's pretty slow going. Quite a few gravel sections as well, and not like the nice, I don't know, Boulder, Colorado, I'm sure Californian gravel and Girona gravel. It's like actual gravel sections where they just haven't finished the road. It's just like roadworks, like rocks and stuff. So you had to be pretty careful there. Potholes as well, where, if you hit one of those, you kind of lose yourself down a crater. A few stray dogs running out at you. But yeah, just treated to kind of incredible, stunning scenery. So yeah, I came in, I think I got into and again, Sonia was awesome. She'd already mapped out like a few days before, like the best places where they could pull over in the car, and we knew whether I wanted bottles or gels, and we were kind of able to talk and stuff. So that worked really well. And then I got into T2, I think in third, just behind the guy in second, and the male pro winner. He was kind of well up the road. And again, she kind of laid everything out. So again, I did kind of a full change, which is quite funny. I also had a film crew with me who were filming a documentary for the race. And there's no change tents or anything. You literally are just changing on, like, T1 was just like a car park on the side of the dock. And then T2 was just like a side street in a little tiny village where they just sort of put a bit like just a triathlon training session with your local tri club, where you just sort of have a frame for the bikes and stuff. So it's a bit like that. And I come in and I'm like, I've got like however many cameras on me, and I'm like, I'm about to strip, just letting you know I'm going to get naked street kind of thing. So yeah, I just did a full strip into like running shorts and t-shirt, and then the run is so. The one thing that the bike course is slightly short and the run course is slightly long. So it's about 44 kilometers. So maybe about a mile longer than a normal marathon. And it's all on trail. Which is just amazing. And predominantly the first half of the marathon or the first half of the run is predominantly uphill, and then you downhill. But also for the first 30 kilometers, you are on your own with no support crew. So there are a couple of aid stations, but they weren't entirely sure where they were going to be set up. They said approximately 10 and 20 kilometers. But that was it. And then you can meet your support crew at 30 kilometers and they're able to run or ride the last 14 kilometers to the finish with you. So I set off with so you have to be pretty self-sufficient. So I had a running vest with water and precision hydration fluid and then gels and stuff with me. And didn't see anybody. I passed the guy in second in the first kind of mile or so, and then didn't see anyone until, apart from one farmer and his dog, didn't see anyone until the 30K mark. And it's just spectacular. You're running kind of on, the first 8K is up this very sandy single track, and then you join a gravel road, and then you just follow the gravel road for the rest of the run, which just undulates, goes up and down and around these lakes. And again, we just, with the blue sky, you just had the snow-capped mountains just popping against the blue and the lake. And I walked most of the uphills at the start, the really steep sections, just trying to keep the heart rate down and keep it controlled. Obviously you're kind of semi-panicked because everyone's so spread out at this point, and you can't get, I didn't get any splits in T2 as to where people were. So you're just hoping you've got a bit of a buffer. And when you're walking up these steep sections, you're kind of convincing yourself going, I don't think anyone else can walk up these sections. It's impossible to walk up, or if they are running up, they're going to be screwed later on in the race because it's just so ridiculous. And then I got really excited. I was just you just need to get to 30K, that's it. And then once you've got somebody with you, it's going to be easy. And I got to the 30K, and Sonia, we'd hired her a mountain bike or a gravel e-bike, which was great. And I think I got so excited that I started talking to her and trying to tell her all the stories of the day. And then it was that realization of going, yeah, you still have 14 kilometers to run. You've still got a third of the race to go. You might want to shut up and conserve your energy. And she was great at saying, okay, it's predominantly downhill now. There's a couple of pinches uphill still to go, but then you should get the tailwind and things like that. So, and at the 30K mark, I was able to get a split to how far I was behind the winner or behind the guy in front, and also to anyone behind me. But of course, those splits were from T2, and that was 30 kilometers ago. So you kind of had I was okay, I had a nice buffer there, but who knows what's happened in the last 2 hours of this race. But again, still didn't really see anyone. And it's funny, the last mile of the race is you're back on the a tarmac road, and you're running downhill. You've got a tailwind that you don't really feel because you never do at that point. And you can just see the lake at the bottom, and you see the flags, and you're starting to hear the cheering and stuff. And there's the thing with Patagonman, they have a bell at the finish line that is this infamous bell that everyone rings. And also for the winners, the male and the female winner, they have a gate that they then open. Now, it's a little bit odd because the bell, you'd think that the gate would open to reveal the bell, but actually the bell is in front of the gate. So it's a little bit confusing. But so I'm running down, and I don't know. At this point, I think I was just looking forward to finishing. It was an amazing day, but I was kind of just more relief that I'd got through it and things. And I sort of start approaching this gate, and I can see that it's shut. And I'm kind of thinking, do I have to open it? Or do they open it? What's the deal here? I'm not really sure. And I'm getting closer and closer. And I can just see this crowd of people surrounding the gate. And as I'm coming up, I'm they can't get it open. The gate is locked shut and they're struggling to open it. What do? Do I slow down and give them more time? But I'm I don't really want to slow down. I kind of want to get this thing over and done with. So I kind of get there, and the gate's shut, and there's all these people. What had happened is because it was so windy and stuff, they'd closed the gate, but they had to tie it because the wind kept blowing it open. But the wind was still buffeting it. And so every time it got buffeted, it would tighten the knot. So then when they came to open it, they couldn't actually undo the knot. So I get there to the end of this race, and I'm the gate's still shut, and there's all these people trying to panic and open it. I'm okay, but the bell's here. So do I ring the bell, or do I wait to open the gate, or do I run back up the road and stuff? So it was quite amusing. I ended up ringing the bell. And and then kind of walked around a bit, and it didn't take too long. A few seconds later, they managed to open the gate, so we went through everything again. But it was it was quite funny, a funny way to finish the day. But yeah,
I caught it's like a 2.5 minute video on the 2023 race. I don't know if there's a longer documentary that will be coming out, or has it come out? I wasn't able to find it, but
yeah, the documentary's kind of come out next year.
Oh,
so
okay.
They did a full, I don't know how long it's going to be, but they followed 3 of us through the race. Well, in the days, so they came to Boulder and filmed me training, and then in race week, and then race day, and a few things afterwards.
Oh, so, nice. Well, the 2.5 minutes, I was watching it earlier today, and I was able to see that gorgeous day that you guys had, and oh my gosh, the views, and I love that your description of this. It feels like like Ironman triathlon, which is, it's so neat and tidy. It's all on, if there's a pothole, like people are going to complain about it,
well, if it's over 26 miles.
Yeah. If it's over 26.2 miles.
Well, this is the funny thing. So people were getting shitty and they were complaining that they'd cut the swim in half. Okay. And I'm like, do you realize for a lot of the average people doing this race, they could be in the water for 2 hours and it's 8 degrees. That is not safe from a race. I fully supported the race for doing that. But they were complaining, going, oh, I'm fed up of races getting the swim cancelled and all of this. And I'm like, hang on a minute. The bike course is short and the run course is long, but you're not complaining about that. Like, you're only worried about the swim. And I wanted to say to people, and I think this is what you might have been saying, and before I jumped in, but Patagonman, it's not about ticking off the distances. Yes, it is a iron distance approximately, but there is so much more and so many more challenges that go on, that to be fixated on whether it's 3.8K or 2K and it's 174 kilometers, not 180, and it's an extra mile on the run kind of thing. Just look up and look around you and look where you are and appreciate just swim, bike and running over some ridiculous distances. But yeah, it doesn't need to be exact. Getting to that, you're going from one side of Patagonia to the other side. That's pretty cool. And ringing that bell at the end and just having this amazing local support, and the weather, what the weather throws at you, what the road, you've got to pick it for those reasons. And they try and say, this isn't an Ironman race. If you want to do Ironman, you're in the wrong place. So appreciate this for being at the bottom of the earth. And yeah, that's definitely what it's about.
Well, that's what I think is so funny about it. It's like this Ironman, right? And we know what comes along with that. And there, we can stereotype a mass personality there. But then it's like you go into, if you've ever done an ultra, you go into the ultra world. It's like, a 50K can be, 36 miles. You just never know. You don't know. Sometimes the course is marked great. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's an aid station. Sometimes it's, 10 miles away. And I love this. We're seeing a lot more crossover between ultra and triathlon, and I'm loving this crossover. And I feel like the extreme triathlons are bringing these two worlds together. But what we're also seeing is women are really they're thriving at this in these types of extreme triathlons. As a woman who just crushed it out there, what do you think the qualities are of women that it's the playing field's being leveled?
I think so. There was still a handful of women in Patagonman compared to the men, but I think that goes back further in terms of just women need to have the belief that they can do it. And there's obviously a lot of other things that go on in lives that women feel responsible for and don't feel they have the time or feel maybe selfish enough to do the sport, which I hopefully will change. But once the women do enter and do get to a race, I think women just have this incredible endurance base, and particularly as we get older, and they're just able to kind of, I think, and this is probably, no disrespect to the men, and I'm obviously doing sweeping statements here, but that kind of logical problem solving and just being able to get through a day and deal with things that are thrown up, and literally just stubbornness kind of gut it out. But there is that, I think females, and I'm sure someone can pick me up on the science, but do have, again, stereotypically a better endurance base as the distances go longer and as things get tougher and tougher. And it's just a case of making the women believe that, and believe that they can be on a start line and they can commit to a race, and that they do deserve to be able to have those opportunities. And once we sort of start, getting more women to believe that they deserve to be there, they're just as good as anyone else, I'm hoping we'll see even more women the ability to take on these races if they want to. I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge endurance race. It can be a 5K. It can be an open water swim, whatever it is. But if it is that endurance side of the sport, women, I hope they start to see and believe that they are incredible at racing those endurance events.
Well, I think it's so cool when professional triathletes like yourself, Leanne DeCave crushed it at Ultraman Canada. We did an interview with her, and I wasn't she like second overall? Did she win it overall or remember. Something like that? Like it was, like out of the top, 5, the majority of it was women. And so I think as, more women like you, like leading off the front and doing these races. It's funny, a friend of ours did Norseman, and that was, her feedback too. And she's done, Starvation Man out in Utah. It's just like, you can do, like, if this is on your heart, if this is something that like sparks something for you and you're a woman, like you can do this. I mean, anyone, right? We don't, men can do it too. Yeah. But it is a wonderful message to be sending out there. And I think we're going to continue to see it growing.
It's a mindset, a mindset shift.
Yeah.
It's
true.
It's a mindset shift. And you've got a strong mindset. I've heard you say, and maybe this is the negotiation of the mind where you're like, I'm okay to move back home with my family, my mom and dad, if they, if I make them aware of it.
I'll tell you a story on that one. In a minute. Yeah.
But you have this, it's that shift. It's like, it's okay. That's the worst that can happen. Okay. Well, I've got to pursue, I've got to take this to the edge and see it for myself. I need to experience it myself. I'm not going to read a book about it or ask someone else about it. I need to experience it. And I think that mindset shift is what we need to see more of, all over. I think it's a game changer.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'll tell you a quick side story. When COVID hit and I was kind of a bit stuck on where to go because I couldn't go back to New Zealand and didn't want to because of, everything looked like it was shutting down, and I couldn't stay in the US. And then I was about to go back to Spain, but they went into this horrific lockdown. So I ended up my sister said, why don't you come back to the UK? We've kind of locked my parents down because they were, they're in their 70s and we wanted to keep them safe. So she's like, why don't you come back to the UK, come and stay with me for 2 or 3 weeks while this blows over. She regretted that 6 months later, didn't she? So when we talk about, I could go back to my parents' house, I'm not sure whether they feel the same about that for things, but yes. The concept is that is, if that's the worst that happens, it's not, I'm in a very fortunate position that other people aren't. So, yeah.
I think it's a good thing to look at. Like, we've had to do that too. We've taken many risks in our life. And, we'll look at like, okay, what's the worst? And we've had the same thing. What's the worst case scenario? I'm like, okay, we move back to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and we live in my pink bedroom that I grew up in. And we squeeze into my twin bed. Like, that's the worst thing. And well, that's not that bad. And so let's just go for it. Let's do it. Whatever it is that we're doing. And you have this motto that everybody will never let you forget about. Every podcast I heard with you on it, they talk about it. But I think it's a really important one. Is don't die wondering. Yeah. And so, how does that continue to show up for you in your decision making?
I have to say it gets a little bit harder as you get older. I think you become more risk averse about things. And, I'm definitely, it's crazy. Even little things like riding my bike now, like having a couple of accidents, I'm definitely more like conscious of traffic and, descending and stuff like that, or going skiing. Living in Boulder, I've been able to get some skis and go skinning, which I love. So walking up the mountain and then skiing down, but I'm definitely like very apprehensive, and because I don't do it enough, but coming down the mountain, and there's those, fear factors that come into your head, I think, as you get older and you realize your body isn't quite as unbreakable as you thought it was when you were a youngster, and that you could do anything. But yeah, I still try and live by that motto to be like, again, it's kind of that, what's the worst that can happen? And, also if the worst decisions are being indecisive, like there's not necessarily a right or wrong decision, but you've just got to make a decision and go with it. And if it doesn't work out, that door closes, another door opens, and you then make a decision. I spent a bit of time in the military as well. And that was always one of the things we learned was like the worst leader, that's a little bit strong, but the worst people are if you just can't make a decision. And I go through places, I'm hopeless at making decisions because I worry about, is it the right, is it the wrong? And then you can kind of just have to step back and go, you just need to make a decision and then go forward with that and fully commit to it. And then further down the line, if it doesn't work out or if it's not what you thought, reassess, readjust, turn around, go again. But while you're being indecisive and dithering, you're not getting anywhere and you're not getting anything done. So that a little bit is that don't die wondering. It kind of like, again, it's one of those, like, you don't want to look back in 10, 20 years time and think, what if, because you never tried. And what is it? You always forget, you'll always regret the things that you never did, sort of thing. You'll never regret the things that you did, even if, it wasn't the best. You'll always learn and something, and you always regret it if you didn't do it. So yeah, I still try and fall back onto that if I am in a kind of coming to a crossroads or coming to a turning point.
Is there a sense of relief once you make that decision out of all that turmoil?
Hugely. Yeah, massively. Yeah, because I'm an overthinker as well. Always have been an overthinker, over worrier, and so I turn myself in knots, thinking, I don't know what to do. What's the right decision? Is this going to please people? Like, all that kind of thing, and ultimately just create more stress for yourself, more fatigue for yourself, more uncertainty, and I actually just. And it's funny because you had to make a decision, but every time you do it, you still go in that same cycle. I'm obviously not a quick learner either, but it's just that. And again, like it said, it's once you've made the decision, regardless of what it is, there is a sense of relief, and you can go, okay, I've made the decision. Now, what falls out of that? Okay, A, B, C, D. Right, done. Let's get on and do it. And so you can be kind of pragmatic about that, and then move forward. Yeah.
How about since we're on this topic, we're kind of talking about mindset and relationship to thoughts and stuff. You were out of commission for a little while and set to just like do nothing. And how was that experience? And what was the conversation going on? And maybe how did you work through that to bring yourself out of it?
Yeah. So after the accident in Brazil, I kind of, pre-race, it'd been 30 hours a week of training, kind of one of the best shapes I'd been in my life, although I probably didn't realize it and appreciate it at the time because you're kind of so fixated on racing and the anxiety that goes with that. And then afterwards, it was nothing and wasn't allowed to do anything, was just allowed to go for a couple of 20-minute walks a day. And that was it. And then lots of resting. And I've never done that before in my life. Like, I've always played sport as a kid growing up. I've always been active. I've always was, at school and sport before and after school, and like just always been so busy and never been a good person, a good professional athlete at napping in the day and taking that recovery. And even in an off season as an athlete, because it's such a way of life for us, you are still active and doing stuff, like whether that's just hiking, walking, gravel riding, that's just who we are as athletes. Like, we want to still be active, but you're just doing sport you're exercising rather than training as such. And so, to then have this period of time where it was just nothing, wasn't allowed to do anything bar walking. And that was really strange and it was really odd. But at the same time, because of the nature of the injury, you can't read, you can't watch TV, you can't watch films because you're trying to limit your screen time. So everything we stereotypically fall back on these days to relax, social media, Instagram, Netflix, whatever it is, like I couldn't do that either. So you kind of suddenly have everything removed. So I got into audiobooks. I'm still into audiobooks. I've always been a fan of podcasts and listening to podcasts, but I started listening to audiobooks, which I really found is a huge, and I still do that now. So that's been really amazing. My coach, Julie Dibbons, was amazing at lending me her dog to take for walks. So I had my therapy dog, Dakota, who was amazing because they just are happy to see you and to throw a ball and getting out in nature. And and I guess like just appreciating different things. It was funny. We have a run loop here in Boulder that we've done. I mean, I've lost track of. It's called Monarch Road. It's in the Boulder 70.3 course. And, I've run it so many times I've lost track of it. But in those early days when I couldn't do anything but walk, Julie would great. She'd pick me up because I couldn't drive either. So she'd pick me up and still take me to the session. And then the guys would all go off and run and I would walk. And I saw houses along this road that I have never seen before. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that house existed. Your eyes are just opened up to a whole new world of observing, taking in, things you'd never seen before. But it was tough. And then it was just a case of kind of getting the all clear and slowly working things back, working with people like Lawrence, working on doing a lot of like balance and juggling and hand-eye coordination things again, and having a good team around me that believed that we could still kind of, or gave me like the small goals, gave me a little bit of structure, kept checking in on me, and put a plan in place that we then slowly at the right times could increase that. First of all, it was starting riding just on the indoor trainer and just super low stress stuff. And again, still not looking at screens. So yes, I had Zwift on, but I couldn't look at it kind of thing because that would make my eyes hurt and give me headaches. And then eventually sort of getting the all clear to ride outside. And Julie was great. She came with me on those first few rides. Always checking in and monitoring, like, are you getting symptoms? Is being outside, seeing, having too much stimulation. But again, and in those early days, taking me to sessions. So whilst I wasn't able to do the training, I could still be on pool deck watching or being involved and engaging with people rather than just being kind of like stuck at home on your own, which I also get like huge cabin fever anyway. So I needed to get out, and that's where, she was really good like that. And just believing that, like, it was hard. And like I said earlier, there were times where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get back. I don't know what that looks like. But I'm going to kind of keep going and doing everything I can do it to the best of my ability to make those steps every day. I also took up crocheting, as a new hobby.
Oh, I love that.
Which is described. So this is the thing, like, you get in this world of social media is obviously, you start having a conversation about it with a friend and then suddenly you get all the adverts on your Instagram feed. And so and it's advertised as this, like, it's relaxing, it's stress-free, it's time to switch off. And I was like, okay, this is perfect. Like, I can't look at screens. It's something to do. It should be relaxing. I can tell you, it is not relaxing. It is very stressful. Like you're trying to like see these tiny little stitches, then you've done it wrong. You have to do it again. You're trying to follow the instructions.
Totally.
This is false advertising. This is not what it's described as.
No, I'm right there with you. When we first got married, I was like, I'm going to knit my husband a hat for Christmas. Like, how romantic. It was the funniest. It was like a big, huge, it was supposed to be a cool hair. Yeah. It was supposed to be a cool little beanie. It ended up being like this long, like stocking, like Rastafarian hat. And it was Christmas Eve. And I was like 4 glasses of wine in, and I was like, God damn it, I'm going to get this done. And I was, and you're just, my face hurts. And oh my God, it was so stressful. And I don't think I've knitted a thing since. But I've changed a lot since then. So maybe I'll come back and see if I can get the relaxing vibe. I know you said like, you're going to get on the plane, and you've had a lot to process this year. And now this, latest amazing achievement down in Chile. But looking back, any blessings from the year, any gifts, and it's not like, like, oh, it's all been positive, because it hasn't. And it sounds like it's been really, really tough, but I do believe that everything happens, for our greatest good. And I'm just curious if you've recognized anything that's been a blessing for you.
I mean, first and foremost, that I'm here, kind of thing. I was found unconscious on the road, and the people that found me kind of thought the worst. I still don't remember anything about what happened, which again, I think is a blessing. I think that's our body's amazing way at protecting us. Also grateful that in reality, I had, nothing was broken. Yes, I had a brain bleed, but which has, the thing is with brain injuries as well, like it's so different from person to person, and no one really knows. And like some people suffer straight away, and then some people suffer like 2 or 3 years down the line. And I didn't have any huge symptoms at the start, apart from obviously and we did take things super easy. So just managing that fatigue, but I didn't suffer with not overly like light sensitivity or noise sensitivity, which was, I was incredibly grateful for. Yes, I've managed then things sort of longer, like the fatigue, energy levels does hit differently. And coming back was kind of really grounding, like, sessions that I had done previously, and, they were hard sessions, but not really thought about it. It was just something I did. And as we'd sort of built back up, I'd do a similar session, and it would just wipe me out for the rest of the day, and I'd have to lie down and nap, and I literally couldn't do anything else. I think, one thing I'd like to probably carry on, and it's very quickly gone back to how it was before, was that opportunity to nap and rest and to almost clear the computer, because I had a reason. And I noticed that, with doing that, it definitely affected my mood for the better. Like, you're in a happier, more energy place. Whereas as soon as I started bringing back in the laptop, the computer, the screens, the work, I see the energy levels and the emotions go up and down again. But it's very hard to kind of, control that and go back. So I think, having that opportunity to learn and see those benefit of that rest and sleep and recovery, even though I've probably gone back to old habits. And then I think, the opportunity, things like then being able to sort my hip out or things like that maybe I wouldn't have had because I'd have just plowed through training. I think the other thing it made me realize, I was fortunate enough, I was meant to race Challenge Roth, and obviously couldn't after the accident, but I was fortunate enough to still go over and work with the team. And I've done that at a few races, seen races from the other side, but that made me realize that, when something that you love is taken away from you, or when something is taken away from you, you realize how much it means to you. I think that's probably the right way of putting it. So like how much the sport does mean to me when it's taken away, and you can kind of go back to that feeling incredibly grateful for the opportunity that I have as a professional athlete and the choices I've made. So yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I hope, like I said, the last few months, I think, sort of since Kona have been pretty hectic, and I probably haven't I've probably kind of defaulted back into a lot of things and haven't given myself the chance to just stop and appreciate what I've done this year. And also, with athletes, and I don't know, whether it's a female or a British thing, or I don't know, or just me, we very quickly move on to the next. We very quickly kind of don't give ourselves the time to acknowledge and to be grateful and to recognize and celebrate things. And we're already kind of looking to how to be better and what's the next goal and stuff like that. And I think I need to, this year more than ever, probably take a step back and just, not necessarily reevaluate, but just, go over.
Reflect.
Go over things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's a very non-British thing to do as well. So it doesn't feel hugely natural to me. And so that's another thing I need to kind of work on better at, like appreciating that and reflecting back.
Yeah. Well, that's the gift in all these things, is like it's pointing us in the direction of, you're not good at that or you're uncomfortable with that. Well, that's the work. Yeah. And because the patterns of what we do in training as athletes, it gets so, you get into such a rhythm, such a routine, and it's like second nature. And then we step back and you're like, well, wait a minute, what's happening here? There's something else to learn. And so, I mean, we've been in it, like we said, like 20 years, and I'm still learning about, what I do with swimming, biking, and running. And I love it. I hope to not let these moments of injury or suffering be the stimulus, but it's sometimes that contrast that we need to kind of wake up a little bit. So you have we've got to wrap this up, but Kona, a love-hate relationship with Kona. Well, next year it's Nice. So is there any aspirations, or have you already qualified, or aspirations for?
I haven't. No, I haven't already qualified. Look, I think my love-hate relationship with Kona went back from my early years as a professional, and I always raced a lot because I never had the confidence that I was a Kona athlete, or that I could put and also like, we don't do it for the money, but you've got to earn a living and make it sustainable. So to not race and just put all your eggs in one basket of Kona, that just wasn't going to work for me. So I'd always raced a lot, which perhaps meant that I turned up to Kona not in, maybe with more fatigue in my legs than you kind of realize. And then you're competing against the best women in the world who have focused on this race. So, and I always kind of had this, the love-hate relationship with the circus and the hype that went with it, and the media and the industry and the infatuation with age groupers kind of thing. I was like, there are much more stunning races out there around the world. It's not the most exciting course, but I think a change of coach and working with Julie and the belief that she has in me and the results that we achieved when it was then in St. George as a start. So the Ironman World Championship was in St. George, and that is a course that suits me. And, I came 7th there, and then she sort of put this seed in my head of going, oh, don't you think it'd be awesome to do like 2 top 10s in 2 world championships in the same year? And I kind of was like, yeah, but I can't, I'm never going to get top 10 in Kona. That's just not who I am. And so it was her belief. So seeing it last year, and I understand why it's so special to people to race there. I understand the magic, the mystique, the history it has, and I respect that immensely. And I think the last 2 years have kind of changed I'd probably go to more of am not fully in love with it, but I appreciate it and love it and respect it and want to be part of it a lot more than I probably used to. Going forward to Nice, that is probably not a course that suits me, particularly, as you do get older, and the standard of women's racing is brilliant at the moment, and it's just going rapidly higher and higher. But my goal is I'm going to go back to New Zealand and race early in the year, which I'm super excited about to get back to New Zealand because I've not been back there. Also, my friend's super excited because I'll finally get to pick up all my stuff that she's kindly been storing for the last 4 years in her spare room. And at the moment, and this may change, like if I get a slot for Nice in New Zealand, I'll take it. Because I think we just have to be grateful for those opportunities. I'm not going to get many more of them like that, in my career. If I don't get a slot in New Zealand, my current thinking is I probably won't chase it. I want to do Challenge Roth again, and that's always the middle of the year. However, I'm also really bad at FOMO and a fear of missing out. So there's quite a big chance that I'll get partway through the year and really don't want to miss out on not being on the start line in Nice and getting to experience that. I think it's great for the sport, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to be in Kona this year was to support an all-female event. And so it's a bit the same in Nice. Kind of want to support an all-female day of racing. I would say I love the 2 separate days of racing, but I would like us to be in the same location. But I
agree. Yeah.
So we do the best that we can with what we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And all right, well, we'll be cheering you on at Ironman New Zealand, and willing that you grab that spot. We'll be manifesting that vision along with you, and Challenge Roth, and just congratulations on wow, what a year. Lots of ups, lots of downs, some really big peaks and valleys, but here you are, and super grateful to have this conversation. Thanks for making time prior to the holidays, and we are not going to allow you to procrastinate your packing anymore.
So we can carry on talking because I've got packing that I don't want to get on with.
You need to pack, and we'll be watching. And how do people follow you? Where are you most active?
Most active on Instagram actually, which is at LMSid. A little bit on Facebook and Twitter, but mainly on Instagram. So. Yeah, more than happy for people to reach out there and send me messages. And if people are at races and stuff, I love to connect with people. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, Thank you so much. We're so grateful.
No, thank you so much for having me on. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you both. So thank you.